And I look at their work and I'm like, yes, you can. Well, I just move on to the next client. Yeah, they have to pay for me. Yeah. No. These are my prices. This is what you get, and yeah, it works.
There are no questions. Yes. Okay, the question was whether or not Crash works on his own or whether he works with either one or two assistants.
It really depends on the wedding, but every wedding I do take my assistant with me, Jill. Absolutely brilliant. But if it's a big wedding where there's, say, 200 plus people, then I do call in a second shooter.
Okay, so the question was, how does has Crash kind of created his own visual voice, his own style of work, whilst also remaining contemporary?
Well, keeping up to date with things and remaining contemporary is like subscribing to magazines and reading books. I mean, professional photographer, every month I read it front to cover. That'll keep you up to date with what's going on in the industry, okay? So, highly recommend that. But in regards to my style, it's just what I do every week. I go to a wedding, I shoot what I like, and that's my style. So I don't look at others for style. And a lot of people, a lot of photographers, they do that. They, oh, well, his style's so good, and you know, why can't my style be like that? Don't worry about it. Go out there every week, shoot what you like, and that will be your style. You will find your style.
The question was if Crash had any plans to move into moving image and video.
I hope not. No, I went to film school in Los Angeles for a year, and video's great, but it's so time consuming when it comes to editing. So, I mean, hopefully it doesn't go that way. Hopefully photographers will be photographers and videographers will be videographers, and I see after a while it probably will go back that way, but you should always keep up to date. I do know Final Cut Pro and I do know the basics of cinematography, so you should learn the basics. You never know.
Yes, at the back. Okay, the question was whether or not Crash had any kind of favorite actions or particular effects he's using in post-production.
Yeah, I can't tell you, that's the secret. No, pretty much everything I do in Photoshop on my own. I do everything myself. There are a few actions I use and so forth, but I always use actions that I can change the opacities and stuff myself, because that's one thing you do see out there, and I see it all the time. You'll go to one photographer's website and I'll see the action that he's used, and then I'll see it on everyone else's too. So another thing, don't get too caught up on actions. Create your own style by doing Photoshop yourself, just like you would in the darkroom.
Okay, so the question's about workflow, which is post-production. So, you know, kind of how many images is Crash working on at one time? Okay, so the question is basically, what is that workflow thing? Is he running stuff through Lightroom? How much is he then putting through into Photoshop, and how much post is he doing on specific images?
Okay, it used to be pretty much Photoshop all the time, but now Lightroom, absolutely amazing. And if you're using Aperture too, great product. But shoot the wedding real briefly. Everything goes into Lightroom. I do everything in Lightroom, and I'm done. The only time I go into Photoshop is if I want to create some really nice signature art for my blog, or say something that you can't do in Lightroom, like change a sky or something like that, and I'd go into Photoshop. But now pretty much Lightroom is so fast that it's shoot, Lightroom, finished. And a few images I'll take into Photoshop for my blog.
How much do you retouch the bride's face?
Okay, so the question is, how much retouching are you doing on the bride?
A lot of brides come to me and they ask me that, and I don't know why, because most, their skin's great anyway, but I did have a bride that came to me about 4 months ago. I shot her wedding about 4 months ago, and she said to me when she came to see me that when she gets stressed out, she gets huge, grape-sized pimples. So I show up to the wedding with Jill, and guess what she has? A big grape on her face, okay? So every photograph I took of her during the wedding, she had this great, and yeah, I went in every single wedding image I went and I took off pimple. But, sorry? Oh, well, you know, the candid photos and so forth. So I took them off and she was so happy. But in regards to retouching the skin, no, people overdo it way too much all the time. Maybe if there's something, never take off moles or never take off anything like that. Don't get crazy on the liquefy tool, because I've heard of photographers, they have a really big bride, they use the liquefy tool and that bride is not happy. She's proud to be big. So don't go using the liquefy tool and that sort of thing. Maybe if there's a pimple, take it off. No, not too much skin smoothing.
I don't think I even like the sound of the liquefy tool.
No, very scary.
Yes, sir. Okay, so the question is, after the wedding's been shot, how does Crash actually show them the images and in what context?
A lot of my clients are professionals, so they don't have time really after the wedding. I don't either. I have a 19-month-old son now, so I want to spend as much time with him. So it's all done through the internet. So they go up there, they choose the photographs, they send them to me. I send them off to Queensberry in New Zealand. I pay their wedding design albums to wedding designers to design the albums, and it all goes from there. Yeah, if they come back to me, it's going to be 3 or 4 hours. I'd rather spend it with my son.
Any other questions? Okay. Let's just answer that one first. So the lady's question is, using Photoshop techniques, is there a danger of using specific techniques, particularly like HDR, that date? I know certainly being, well, certainly I haven't been around a while. I can remember cross-processing being a big thing. But Crash, what's your take on the use of techniques?
It's just, to me, it's not overusing all the techniques. I'll create the images that you see on my blog, my signature images. The bride and groom don't